With me today is my friend Ruth Loten,
Hi.
who is a writer, author, and actually a publicist. So, over to you. I have my questions, as always, because I forget them otherwise. So, Ruth, what made you decide to be a writer?
It's an interesting question because I don't think I ever decided as such to be a writer. It's something that I've always done, and in my biography I quite often put a little joke in there that I kind of decided that I was going to be a writer because when I did my writer's badge in Brownies, most people turned up with 1 or 2 pages. I turned up with 25 sides of A4, and the poor tester had to sit and read them all, and bless her, she was amazing. But I've always written. When I was in secondary, I had an ongoing story that I used to write overnight, and then my friends would read it on the bus on the next morning and give me ideas about what they wanted to see happen in the story and things like that. But I think probably when I decided that I was going to do it really properly and really focus on it more as a career was probably 2018.
Okay.
And basically my youngest was going off to preschool, and I decided that I needed to do something that was for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's a fairly common thing I've found.
yeah,
Yeah. Time
so
for me.
exactly, yeah, something that wasn't wife, mum, teacher, all the other kind of hats that I wear. I wanted to do something that was purely selfishly for me, and so I decided I was going to do a master's in creative writing.
Okay.
And that was the point at which I thought, actually, I can do this. People aren't just being nice. I can actually write and write well. And it's kind of snowballed from there, really.
You say it's doing something for you, but actually, once you start writing, you're then doing it for other people.
Absolutely.
You want them to read it. So
Yeah.
again, you're creating the stories to make them interesting for other people.
Yeah, exactly. But to be honest, the main reason I write is because I'm not very pleasant if I don't. If I have a time where I don't get to do that creativity bit, I get quite grumpy. And I think actually I probably need to create some time just to, even if it's just 500 words, if it's just a little short story, anything, just to kind of get
the ideas out.
Exactly.
Get the ideas out. So, what genres do you write in? How do you make that decision?
I describe myself as a bit of a licorice all sorts writer.
Okay.
Because I sort of dabble in everything.
Mm-hmm.
So my first book was a contemporary romance. Since then, my adult books have all been historical fiction, which is probably, I think, where I'm most comfortable as a writer is probably within that genre. But I also write children's books. My children's books are fantasy. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag. And my next series that I'm doing is going to be cozy crime.
Okay.
So it's a real...
Cozy crime, that's a big one. That's growing.
Yes, it's 1920s cozy crime to be specific. And it's a spin-off from my historical fiction series, which is nice.
Which is also very popular at the moment. Yes. So, this is your...
That's the first
one?
Yeah, that's the first in the historical fiction series.
Okay. This is Folly by Ruth Loten. Your Avonstoke series is set in a fictional version of your hometown. Why was that? Why did you set your books there?
COVID, basically.
Okay.
I'd had the idea, but it wasn't the book that I was intending to write next. My plan was that I was going to write a book that was set in Cornwall, inspired by sort of Daphne du Maurier. We'd spent a lot of time in Cornwall. I love it down there, and that was my intention. And then COVID hit, and we were obviously confined to very, very local areas when we were allowed to go out for a walk. And I thought, I need to write something that is here in Brightlingsea. And that's how Folly came about. I'd had this idea. I'd found out about the Anzac troops being based in Brightlingsea in 1917, and I liked that idea. And when I was doing the masters, I'd had an exercise that we had to do that was the beginning of a crime novel, and mine was about a body being found out by Bateman's Tower, and it had sort of stayed with me, and I thought it's one I want to come back to and have a bit of a play about with. And then with the Anzac connection, I was like, it could be, maybe the body of an Anzac soldier or some kind of connection there. And on our daily walks, I was talking to my husband and kind of going, where could you hide a body in Brightlingsea that, that wouldn't be discovered for years? And we were walking along the seafront, and he just kind of went, down there. I was like, oh, brilliant, yeah, of course you could. And so that's how Folly came about. And I was doing a novel in a year course at the time, and that was the novel that came out of that novel in a year. So yeah, and then the plan was it was going to be a standalone book. It was never meant to be a series. And then I got the writer in residence at the Lido, and part of the deal with that was that I would write a book that featured the Lido at the heart of the story. And I knew the story I wanted to tell, and I couldn't make it work in the real world. And so because I'd fictionalised Brightlingsea for Folly, because I wanted to play about with the history a little bit, so I'd created this fictional version, but if you know Brightlingsea, it's very clearly that it's based on Brightlingsea. But when I started the one for the Lido, I couldn't make it work in the real world, and I thought, I've just spent the last 2 years creating this fictional version, why not just set it there? So I went back to Folly, and I added a character into Folly just as a minor character who's related to some of the others, and she then became the main character in The Mermaid, which was the follow-up. But then one of the characters in Folly, Lily, she's the best friend of the main character, and I got to the point with her where I knew there was more than I'd put in Folly. And I absolutely loved Lily, and I desperately wanted to tell her story. And so even before I'd finished Mermaid, I knew that there was going to be a third one, and that was going to be Lily's story. As it happened, it became a bit of a double header, in that it's not just Lily's story, it's somebody else's story as well, who is very closely associated with Lily. But it was one of those, for me, quite rare moments where I had a plan more than a book ahead. Yeah. Like I said, Folly was never meant to be a series. It was only going to be a standalone. But once I'd started it, I thought I've got to tell Lily's story. And so Silver Darling, which is the third and the last one in the trilogy, that's Lily's story.
You also write for children. Why did you make that decision?
There's two.
Is
There's two reasons.
This one.
So there's that one, which is my real kind of children's book, and then I've also got The Reign of the Winter King, which is more for older children. Max came about because Max is a real cat. He's kind of the town cat in Brightlingsea. He's actually owned by a lady called Georgie, and she has a Facebook page for him called Max's Missions, and people take pictures of him on his adventures all around town.
Is that Max?
That's Max, yeah.
I don't know if you can see that there. That is Max.
So people take photographs of him and post about all the kind of daft things that he's got up to, and some of the lovely things as well. And we'd kept saying, it's a shame that there isn't a book about him. So I got together with a friend of mine who's an artist, and we approached Georgie and said, could we do a book about Max, because it would be amazing. And she said, yeah, absolutely, go for it. So we did. And by the time we'd written the first one, he'd done so much more that we then ended up writing a second one as well. So that's how that one came about. And then The Reign of the Winter King started life as a story that I'd written for my eldest son when he was about 8 or 9. Was looking for the next thing to write, didn't really know what I wanted to write about. And he said to me, can you write me a story about me having an adventure with Robin Hood? So, okay, I'll give it a go. So that was that. I kind of self-published it, but it wasn't a professional self-publishing. Really, it was a story for my son that I just kind of stuck up on Amazon. But I came back to it a few years ago because I knew that at the heart of it there was a good story that actually other people might enjoy. So I went back to it a few years ago, got somebody else to have a look at it, did a good edit of it for me, changed the story a little bit, added a few different characters in, took a few characters out, and then again that became then the start of another series. So I've now got The Reign of the Winter King, which is this one, and the sequel is The Quest of the Summer King, and I'm just about to start writing book 3, which is The Rise of the Winter Queen, and it's all based around Robin Hood and King Arthur and kind of myths and legends from around Britain. So yeah, but again, that's one that I've had to go out a bit further to do the research, for location research for that one.
So what were your favourite books growing up, and have they inspired you or moulded your thoughts?
I think Oh gosh, it's really hard. Yes, there's so many books that influenced me. I think if I had to pick an absolute favourite, it would be Wind in the Willows. But I think the childhood book that's probably influenced me the most is Anne of Green Gables.
Right.
It's certainly given me an obsession with women with red hair. And in most of my books, there is a character somewhere that's got ginger hair, and that is absolutely because of Anne of Green Gables. I dyed my hair red at various points over my life, all because of her. And then as I've got older, I've kind of obviously moved on to more adult books, and I think as an adult, the writer that's influenced me the most is probably Kate Moss.
Right.
I just think she's absolutely incredible. The world building that she does, the intricate details, I'm just in absolute awe of her work. And on the odd occasion that I've had communication with her, that I've met her, she is just the nicest person, and she's so encouraging and supportive of everybody that it's one of those few occasions where meeting your heroes is absolutely the right thing to do.
Certainly. So you've also moved into publishing. Tell more about that and why. Why did you do it?
So basically, when we finished the Masters in 2020, there was a group of us that sort of stayed in touch, and we've got our own writing group and things, we all keep in touch online. And there was a handful of us that were sort of complaining about the fact that, it's really hard to get anything published. We all knew that we were good writers, we were sending stories out to competitions, we were sending books out to agents, and none of us were getting anywhere. So a couple of us got together and went, do you know what, we're going to do this ourselves, we're going to set up a magazine, and we're going to invite people to submit, and we're going to publish it. So we did that for about 18 months, and it was reasonably successful compared to what we'd expected. We were getting submissions from all over the world, which was incredible, because we basically started it because we were having a strop about the fact that none of us were getting anywhere. So there was a little bit at the beginning, I think, of kind of who am I to be deciding whether somebody else's work gets published. But it's quite addictive. So when we decided that we were going to close the magazine down, not because we weren't enjoying it, but we basically found we were doing it quarterly, and it was just taking over our entire lives. We weren't doing any writing ourselves. So we closed that down, and one of the ladies that I'd run it with, we were having a chat one day, and we kind of both went, I quite fancy having a go at publishing. I mean, we knew absolutely nothing about it at the time, and we said, look, let's work together. I'd bought some ISBN numbers, and I'd published under the Castle Priory Press name. I'd done my first book through that because of the work that I was doing with the Lido. And we kind of went, okay, let's do a bit of research and let's give this a go. So we decided that we were going to work together. And again, that's something else that's just absolutely snowballed, but in such a fantastic way. Essentially, we're a hybrid publisher. We work with people who would prefer to self-publish but don't actually have the technical skills to do it. And let's be honest, if you can't do it yourself, self-publishing can be hugely expensive. Whether it's getting editors, cover designers, and then that's before you go to some of the vanity presses where they'll charge thousands and thousands of pounds to do it. And we kind of said, look, we're not interested in doing this as a huge money-making thing. We're not looking to retire on this. We want to be helping people at the heart of it. That's what we want. So we said, right, we're going to keep our prices as low as we possibly can, and we're going to target the people that want to keep control of their books.
Oh, that's good.
And that's what we've done. And we've got more professional as we've gone along. We have now started publishing other people. And the nicest thing was that we've worked with somebody who had been traditionally published, came to us because they wanted to self-publish, but like I said, didn't have the skills themselves necessarily. Came to us, published their first book through us, and the dedication in the acknowledgements of their book, it says something along the lines of, thanks to Ruth and Jane for basically being an example of what publishing should be. And that made me cry, I'll be honest, because it was such a lovely thing to say. And through that person, we've now got other people that have come to us. We've just signed somebody now for 2 books who's come to us on the back of her recommendation. So that's the highest praise that we could get, is that people are actively saying to people, go and work with them because they're good and they're honest with you.
Excellent.
And if there's something that we can't do, we'll say that's beyond our skill set. We won't try and...
At the moment.
Exactly. And actually working with that person has pushed us to get better and to increase our skill set, because we're now doing stuff that we'd always kind of gone, oh, we'll do it at some point in the future when we're ready. And she'd kind of gone, well, actually, I'd quite like this. And we went, okay, we'll do it now.
Okay.
And it's pushed us into the next bit, which is really nice.
Good. So getting back to the stories, where do the ideas come from?
So my first book, which is this one, it's Unforgettable, the idea came, it was not long after we'd moved to Brightlingsea, and we went to a place called Beth Chatto Gardens, which is not too far from Brightlingsea. And I walked in, and I don't think I've ever had a story idea come to me quite so strongly. But I walked in and I had this vision of somebody sat underneath a tree reading a book, big, thick, heavy book, and of a guy walking in and seeing her and just instantly falling in love. My youngest was very young at the time, and I sort of jotted down the idea and left it to stew for a while. And then when I started the MA, I was trying to decide what I was going to write about. And I came back to this idea, and I thought that, right, that's the opening image that I want for this part of the story. And it's the story itself is in two halves. It's about a guy who falls in love very quickly, and he meets this woman 10 years after he's met his wife, and it's the story of how everything kind of unfolds. And there's a I don't want to spoil it, but there's a little twist in it, so it's not quite as straightforward as it seems.
Yeah. I've got to have a twist.
Exactly, but that whole book came out of that initial going to Beth Chatto and just having that vision of that initial meeting. Folly, like I said, came about as a combination of COVID and the exercise that I'd done for the masters. All the other stuff have kind of evolved almost organically.
Yeah.
So like I said, the children's series started out because my son wanted a book about him and Robin Hood. And then I've had to then kind of come up with but other ideas like for the remainder of the series, but that initial idea came from him. But these days I'm very rarely know, it's very rare for me to not know what book's coming next.
Right.
I've got about 4 probably that I've got plotted in various stages. So the ideas kind of come as I'm walking around a lot of the time. Always have a notebook with me. And if I don't, I have my notes on my phone. And it's quite often I'll have to, when I get home, go through my phone and look and go, right, I've got 3 books there that I need to now jot down the basic plot for. So usually it's just going to places. We do a lot of visiting like National Trust places and things like that. And it's quite unusual for me to not come away with at least a germ of an idea for a story.
Yeah, it's nice that, isn't it?
Oh, it's lovely.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's really irritating for my family because quite often they'll have to wait for me while I'm sort of frantically scribbling ideas down. Or my husband will be saying, you're on your phone again. I'm like, no, I'm not. I've just got an idea for a story. I just need to make a note. It'll be 2 minutes, I promise.
What's your favourite part of writing?
Probably what used to be my least favourite part, which was editing.
Right.
When I first started writing, I absolutely hated it. I would, in one sense, I would still quite happily write the first draft and then hand it over to someone and go, can you just tidy it up for me? But actually, what I've realised is that I love editing other people's work. I don't particularly like doing my own because it's, as you know, it's harder to find the faults in your own. I'm very, very lucky now that my partner in publishing, we edit each other's work.
Right.
So I'm very lucky that she's very good at picking up various bits that I've missed. And once she's kind of gone, this is the problem, I'm like, okay, of course it is. Now I know how to fix it. So actually, I quite like that process now. And I'm very lucky that my eldest son is also becoming a very good editor for me, and he gets my children's books.
Okay.
I tend to do first draft and send those off to him and then get back his copious notes. He sends me far more notes than Jane does, because his attention to detail is impressive, seriously impressive. And I realised that how good he was becoming when he was picking up stuff that I pick up in other people's work, and I was like, oh, I found myself another editor. But I also have two really good friends who are my they're the first people that read the book once it's in not a finished state, but when it's kind of ready for sort of beta readers, and it's almost ready to go out into the wide world. I have two friends, and I give them a copy of it, and they're very good at going through, and they pick up little bits that other people don't, to kind of do the final edits on. So I'm really lucky that I've got such a good team around me, which means that editing now is actually something that's slightly less painful than it was at the beginning.
Speaking of painful, what is your least favourite part?
Oh, absolutely no doubt about it, marketing.
Oh, everybody says that. Everybody says that.
It is the absolute bane of my life. I'm currently trying to work out how to create videos and adverts, and really what I want to say to people is my books are good, please buy them, please read them. I promise you will enjoy them. If you like this genre, you will enjoy them. But obviously that doesn't sell books. And I always remember I was at a book sale once, and there was a lady came to talk to me, and she said, are your books available anywhere else? And I said, yes, they're up for sale on Amazon, which is the only place they were at the time. And she looked very confused, and she said, so why are you here? And I think she had this vision of, you write a book, you publish it, and then it sort of chases people down the street going, hi, read me. And obviously that isn't the case. But people, I don't think people outside of the book world get quite how competitive it is and how difficult it is to get people to even see your adverts, let alone then go from seeing the advert to actually reading the book. So a lot of what I do is word of mouth. And because I think with sort of Folly and that series, because it is such a local book, I've been very lucky that a lot of people in Brightlingsea have read it and recommended it to other people, and it's kind of been passed around that way, which is quite nice. And I think my favourite moment of it, when I realised that people were actually starting to recognise my name, was when I went to vote. And I gave my name, as you do when you get to the polling station, and the guy that was doing it asked me how to spell it, and his wife literally sat there and just went bang on his chest, went, it's the lady that wrote the book that's on my window. I had it on my bookshelf. You watched me read it. I was like, yes, that's me.
Nice, but I think most writers are a little bit introverted.
Yes.
They recognise me.
Yes.
So what's next?
So in terms of my own writing, I'm about to start book 3 of the Court series, which is the children's one. That hopefully will be out sort of May next year, all being well. For my adult series, I'm starting the first book in the spin-off series, which is the 1920s Cosy Crime one, which is a spin-off from the Folly series. And that takes one of the characters from Silver Darling, and I've introduced her in that as Lily's best friend, and she is the detective in the new Cosy Crime series. For publishing, who knows? We've got several books coming out over the next 12 months, both from myself and Jane and from other people. So we're going to be quite busy with that, but it's fantastic because it just shows that we're growing.
And you won't have one from me.
Excellent.
And maybe 2 from me.
Oh, even better.
Even better. So where can people buy your books?
So the main place is Amazon. However, we have got the Dragon's Nest in Brightlingsea, which is run by Pens and Dragons CIC, which is a company that I'm involved in. They're on sale there as well. I think Max is available in Littlebird Gifts in Brightlingsea. But for the publishing company, we're quite excited because we've just registered all the books with Gardeners. So I'm hoping, I've sent the form off now, so I'm hoping that soon they might be available to order in Waterstones and other places as well, which would be fantastic because that's beyond anything that I'd ever thought about when I first started.
Excellent, that's good. Well, thank you very much, Ruth Loten. There will be links to Amazon in the description, so go ahead, look it up and buy some books, read them and enjoy them.
And thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.